Good morning. Good morning. How is everybody today? I did not prepare, so I'm going to throw this open as a live panel and we can just chit chat and have fun. It's only going to go an hour unless we get into something interesting. Let me throw the link in here. Anybody who wants to is welcome to come on up and join the panel. I will continue to ramble on until somebody joins me. So it's Sunday morning, July 26th. Holy cow, I can't believe the year has gone by already. Just feels like, 7 months ago that the year started. This has been a really long year for everybody. In any case, had a lot of fun at karaoke last night. Only did my stream for about an hour. And I think that was plenty good enough. Saved my voice, although I am a little bit raspy this morning, comparatively speaking. But once again, good morning to everybody. Thank you for being here. Like I said, normally I have a subject to talk about, but the time I was setting aside to study for my subject this morning, my son came home from work in a bad way, so I had to spend time with him instead, which is a good thing. It's always good to take time for family. I don't know, JP. I have no idea why you're still up. Although I've been there before, I got myself plenty of sleep last night. Well, not plenty, but it's kind of nice sometimes when the alarm actually wakes you up. At least I'm not starting this stream 2 hours late this time, which is what happened to me 2 weeks ago. I don't have family in town this weekend, so... Oh, my goodness. You didn't get any sleep and you have to go to work. Oh, I feel for you, man. I do. But like I said, I didn't prepare anything for this morning, so I'm just going to ramble on until someone wants to join me. We could talk pop culture. We could talk religion if you want to. In my case, I've been watching Stargate SG-1 again, binge watching it. Love Stargate SG-1. Anyway, I'm not sure how much longer I can ramble. Laundry. I need to do laundry today, too. But 2 p.m. Central Time, we're going to be watching Twilight. Woohoo! Oh, that's going to be fun. If Jedi Bill is feeling all right. He had the shaky coldiness. Okay, no worries, JPs. I'll figure something out. Well, let's actually just go ahead and look at the news, shall we? I could do that. I got an internet. I don't really like news all that much. And there's a reason for it. It's kind of dumb. Oh, the SpaceX satellite, right. Tired of talking about the virus, so I ain't gonna. I'm not going to talk about dead celebrities. I'm not going to talk about live celebrities. Wow, news sucks. Oh, that's funny. You know, I kind of miss making homemade pizza. I had a sourdough starter that I used to use, so it'd be a sourdough pizza crust. Oh, my goodness, that was good. No, I haven't watched Doom Patrol. I generally don't watch anything that's new-ish. I did try to watch The Expanse, but I don't know. I just find it boring. Good afternoon, Colin P. Smith, my longbowman. And how are things in in England, sir? In the UK? I'm just rambling on. I haven't got much else to talk about. Let's see. Yeah, Space Force is the last new show I watched. And I really like Space Force a lot. That was a lot of fun to watch. I know there's some who didn't like it and some who didn't like the vulgarity language that was in it, but I liked it. I liked it a lot. I was expecting it to be more like The Office, but it turned out to be a lot more science fiction-y, and I liked it a lot. Brave New World. I've heard of that. What is Brave New World? Well, look at that. I got the internet in front of me. Let's see if I can figure it out. Brave New World. Oh, it was a book? Was it turned into a TV show? Oh, of course it was. No, I don't have a problem with that, of course. I think it's always a good idea to take something from, well, talented people. You still need talented people to actually turn it into a show worth watching. I think that's mainly what we're missing right now. Not necessarily the talent part, but for some reason, Hollywood writers seem to think that they are required to follow some kind of doctrine when they're writing scripts and things like that. Yeah, I was just looking at that. There was a version in 1980, 1998. So you're saying there's a new version out there now, huh? Huh. I wonder if it's any good. I never read the book, though, which is odd because I'm a reader. Well, then again, in the last 10 years, I've been mostly reading military science fiction from modern authors. As a matter of fact, there's a book series that I really like a lot. It's what is it called? It is called Monster Hunter International, and it's written by Larry Correia. I really enjoy that one. Although, I guess technically it's fantasy rather than science fiction, but basically it just deals with a team of monster hunters who have been around for, well, over 100 years, 120 years now, 125. Holy cow. Anyway, it was started in Alabama by Bubba Shackelford. There's a werewolf on the team and some strange mystic kind of guy, and everyone else is just a regular hunter, you know. They know how to use weapons and things. But there's 7 books in the series right now, waiting for the 8th one to come out. And the English longbowman has joined us.
Hey,
how are you this morning, Colin?
Hey, man. How's things over your side of the pond?
Well, it's morning and it's pretty cool here in the mountains, so I like it.
It's sun's coming out here. It's just gone 2 o'clock in the afternoon here. It's quite sunny, a bit overcast. It was hacking it down with rain yesterday.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah. I haven't read Monster Hunters. It's one of the ones I've got on the list to watch, or to listen to or read amongst many others.
Yeah, yeah, I know. There's so much out there. It's really hard to.
I've, I've,
Um,
I've recently picked up the completely different science fiction, the latest um, in the Albia Longa, Frozen Albia series by Lindsay Davis, Roman Murder Mysteries.
oh, okay.
She's a very good author. She did about 20 about a character called Fastidious Falco, and it was actually the first of those was made into a film months ago now. I think the film was called The Silver Pigs, which and it starred Brian Brown, the Australian actor, and um, Amanda Pace, was an English actress who is married to Corbin Burnson, I think, the chap that was in Hello Law.
Corbin Burnson, huh?
Yeah, I think she's been married to him for. I think she's still married to him, which is not always the case in some of these.
True, true.
No, but it was they're interesting. I mean, they were set in. If you're a history buff, the first lot was set in the reign of. My brain's gone. Trajan. Trajan,
Oh,
I
okay.
think. And the second lot was set. The second lot is about his adopted daughter, who's actually Brit. Because he actually he goes over quite a large bit over the series, about 20 books, but quite a large area of the Roman occupied world, including Britain. And
Right.
that's where he picks up his adopted daughter, who is the main character for the second series of books, if you like, the ones I'm catching up. I'm just on the latest of now.
Well, that sounds pretty interesting.
What I do, I mean, you may possibly be able to tell I'm a history buff. I mean, yeah,
Maybe just a
I try to,
little.
I try to hide it, but I do like when you get history books or history mysteries when you know they're written by someone who's a fan of the subject. I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with not being. You don't have to be a history professor to write historical novels, but
Yeah,
when you
historical
get,
fiction is a lot of fun to read.
oh yeah, fantastic. I mean, even Arthur Conan Doyle, I think, wrote. He's going to like the White Company. So many. I remember back when I was a whole lot younger, many years ago. You used to get historical. The only real historical novels you got were historical romance, but they weren't what we would think of as strictly romance these days. They were
Yeah,
romance as in using the French word of romance for story, romance as in a story. The romance of Robin Hood, they were. That's basically before they exploded. I mean, I don't know what. I mean, obviously you've got a different history over your side. I don't know what they're like. I would be nasty to say it's about 1,000 years shorter than mine, but I won't be like that. But I mean, obviously you've got different historical perspectives. But I mean, certainly in this country, um, we get like historical writing from well, I mean, especially historical murder mystery seems to be the big thing. It has been for a long time. It started with the first big one, breakout one, I think, was probably Edith Pargeter's, Ellis Peters, with a series called Cadfile, by the Cadfile series, which was made into TV series a while ago with Derek Jacobi. And he was a monk um, who got involved in murder mysteries. And he was actually set at the time of the beginning of the 12th century when we had what we call the anarchy in this country. I tend to think of it as probably the first English Civil War.
Good morning, Captain Track. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Captain. And it was the anarchy is a fascinating period, but we had two claimants to the throne basically, and as I said, I mean, but the main thing is before I waffle on far too much, but she wrote these ones. Cowpole comes out, and certainly as I remember that I'm not saying she was the only one by far. There were other writers who wrote historical novels at the time, obviously, but I think she was the one that popularised historical murder mysteries, historical mysteries.
Again, you did state this. I am across the pond, slightly different history. The historical novels I'm most familiar with are The Killer Angels and Gettysburg by Jeff Shera. And they are literal fictional accounts of the battles leading up to Gettysburg. And then, of course, Gettysburg is the Battle of Gettysburg all by itself. And it's really enjoyable to read those over and over again. They deal with the most famous generals during the Civil War and their, reasons for joining whichever side they joined and leading the troops the way they did. And it really was just a really enjoyable series for me.
Well, it's funny because we've got, even in this country, over here, obviously, we have a different perspective on the oral history. I don't know if you know Stone Loki, but he was doing a show a few days ago about the revolution. Sorry, you call it the Revolutionary War, don't you? We call it the American War of Independence. You call it the Revolutionary War.
Correct.
Yeah. Some interesting facts. Like I said, obviously we've got a different perspective on that, but even over this country, not necessarily a case of ungrateful colonials don't want more we can. It's not necessarily the difference in perspective that you might expect, but it's
a lot of fun to go back and forth and banter about that kind of thing, though.
The most important thing about that, I think, is something that people these days absolutely forget. There's a line in I think it's a short notebook, so that's this long line in Robert Hyman. I think it's in Time Enough for Love. Basically, it goes along the lines of, remember, your enemy is not an evil man in his own eyes. Remember, your enemy is not an evil man in his own eyes. Remember this, and you may be able to come to the combination. If not, you can kill him without
hating him, I think.
Yes, without hating him, yes. But
yeah, that's well, I have a separate or had a separate book with all of Lazarus Long's quotes in it.
Got that somewhere on ebook. Yeah, I found it. But we can do that because from distance of, I've got really massive 350 odd years, we can see that there are different points of view to everything, even things that are going on today. If you actually stack the pace back, you can see there are different points of view.
Yeah.
Your side of history quite rightly celebrates and emphasizes your the things that the problems that you had with Britain, with the king, and the acts, the heroism and bravery of Washington, etc. Your founding fathers, your using the words technically rather than meaning in any disparaging way, your foundation myth, your foundation story.
Absolutely.
I'm not using that in any way to put it down. Please, nobody think I'm doing that. It's
Well, no,
becoming
it is a foundation myth many times.
we've
There are there are historical facts that go along with it, but a lot of the stories are, I guess I'd call them apocryphal.
yes, yeah. But I mean, it's what you and that's fine. Something wrong with that. It's your view of that. We, from this point of view, our point of view might be, well, we just thought, we just helped, we just all been fighting a war. Was it a 30 years war, or 7 years war, which in your part of the world was the French and Indian War. We just been fighting that. We thought it only fair that since we'd helped protect you, you should pay some tax. You didn't like it. Other things came in as well, different points of view for the same thing. It's a shame people these days don't, or some sections these days.
Well, the rallying cry at that point for a lot of the patriots, the people that fought against the British versus those in the colonies who were what we call Tories, who were still loyal to the king. The rallying cry at that time for the patriots was no taxation without representation.
Yeah.
And we were not being represented even in the House of Commons.
Oh yes, indeed. I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, I have to admit, to be honest, it's not an area of history I know a massive degree about. It's not an area of history I've been fascinated by, unlike ancient and medieval, which are my main periods. But I do know a bit about it. It's yeah, and there's two different sides to everything. I mean, I've always thought that there were probably three sides as in most similar conflicts. There was
Correct,
the
yeah.
was what you might call the patriot side, the people that decided that they wanted independence,
Yes.
the people that wanted to remain, and the people that were thinking, just go away, I want to get on with my life. I suspect.
Good morning, Dave G. Sound. Thank you for joining us. Have fun painting your basement.
Now, the question is, are you painting in the basement? Are you painting something in the basement, or are you painting the basement? Okay, you can tell that I watch far too many model painting and model making channels, can't you, from that one?
That's quite all right, I'm sure.
Well, he said he's painting in the basement. Now, to me, that suggests he's going to be in his basement painting.
Painting something in the basement,
which
yes.
doesn't necessarily mean he's decorating the walls. He could be, I don't mind. Completely irrelevant. Other than today, that, obviously what are we doing?
I don't have the patience to be a model maker.
I used to be years ago a gamer, a role play gamer, and I used to do tabletop war games. But I used to be much more interested in making the models than actually playing the games. I mean, a lot of the games I played were the tabletop role playing games, and like you had figures, and I used to love painting the figures. But it was, excuse me. But I'm more a painter. But it is something that does take some patience. I was reasonably good at it, but compared to some of the things you see on YouTube, oh no way.
Yeah, I usually only use my fine motor skills for electronics repair and things like that. Never wasted it on painting models.
Oh, excuse me, so a coffee went down the wrong way there. Yeah, well, it's different strokes for different folks. As I believe a TV program of yours used to say, or used to be, it was different strokes, wasn't it? I believe the phrase is different strokes for different folks. I remember a long time ago.
Well, there was a TV show called Different Strokes.
Yeah, was that the one with Gary Coleman?
Gary Coleman, yeah, and
what you talk about, Lewis? Was it that one?
What you talk about, Willis?
Yeah, I can't. Because I mean, there's been so many obviously shows over the years on both sides.
Yeah, two little boys got adopted by a rich old man.
Yeah, oh yes, that's it. Yeah. I didn't go up to read a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Not quite the same.
Yes. It's a long time ago now. I know because I seem to recall what I recall most about that actually is, and I think it was the same guy. Yes, actually appeared in 2 episodes of the Buck Rogers TV series as
Two.
another another kid, as a kid who survived, another one who survived in the 20th century, different way to how Buck. I can't remember the details. Hieronymus, I think the name was, but he was ruler of another planet or something really weird. I think it was in a couple of series. I'm sure it's the same kid. I'm sure it's the same lad, same guy, same actor. I can picture even now.
Well, I'm not familiar with that, so
Not, I have to admit, if I'm honest, that was the main reason for watching Buck Rogers in the 20th century. And great.
oh yeah, definitely.
But mind you, it was less fair. I think it's fair enough to say, without being too rude, that both the lead roles um, in that series were cast at least as much for aesthetic appeal as for acting talent. I'm not putting Jill Gerard or Erin Gray down in any way, but I think both of them were had fans for other things in the story, shall we say?
Oh yeah, that's a very good possibility.
Which again is something absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. We're all well, most of us are human.
Provided they're at least decent actors.
Oh, well, yes, obviously, yes, they were.
We ain't got that now, I could tell you that.
No, I was going to say, heck, let's be fair. If I was like Jill Gerard, like a bugger was married to Connie Selleck, then I could get. Oh God, I was jealous. She was gorgeous as well.
You're showing your age again. You're showing your age again.
Hey, look, that's not an avatar. That's an actual painting of me at Cressy. Well, that was in 1346. Yes. Hey, I'm quite proud to admit I'm old enough to remember Thunderbirds in the UK when it was not a repeat. Pretty
Ah,
basic, it,
I
but I
always
was
watched the Thunderbirds on Saturday mornings when they were repeats.
uh, I was um, I was actually my younger sister and I were actually woken up to watch the TV of the moon landing. Um, so I'm at least that old.
Well, if that's an actual painting of you at Agincourt, then
Yeah, I'm not older than that. Yeah, no, Cressy, not Agincourt. Not Agincourt. But he knew the fish. Oh, Edmund Thirty. I tell you what, actually, saying that, something that really surprised me. I'm not sure there's anything. There's only one of them probably have made much impact over your side. But 2015 was an anniversary of at least three major events. Battle of Agincourt, 1415. The signing of the Magna Carta in 1215, and the Battle of no, what's the time? It was Waterloo, 1815. We had very little celebration of any of those over here, which really surprised me.
you'd think those would be major events.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Agincourt and Waterloo, of course, were both against the French, so we probably weren't supposed to celebrate that anymore.
Can't defend those frog leg eating surrender monkeys, can you?
No. A quote apparently actually originally written for groundskeeper Willie in The Simpsons, I believe that's where that actually comes from. So, I didn't realise that, but apparently it's one of these phrases. It was groundskeeper Willie's way to actually set a name for the French. Another program I haven't watched in a long time, I must admit.
I haven't watched The Simpsons in a very long time.
Now, South Park when it comes back, oh yes.
Even with the new format they're using with the overarching series themes and things, I liked them when they were just one-off episodes and they
Oh,
made fun
yeah.
of everybody.
I mean, I think the thing is, you can do both. You don't. I mean, we were talking. I mean, I can't remember. Are you a Doctor Who fan?
Doctor Who, yeah.
Well,
Well, not recently, but yeah.
well, no, no, it's just I was on another. I was on Blue Bonnet, or we were. Or Blue Bonnet was talking about. I was on. I was chatting, and Blue Bonnet did a stream with Matt Smith, and was saying about the way it was written, particularly specifically about the little bit with Amy, Rory, and River Song. And I was saying, you know, you went from you started at the end of Good Man Goes to War. You discover who River is, and you find out that she is Amy's daughter. Sorry, spoilers. And she's been kidnapped, and the doctor says, "I will find her." The next thing you know, everything's fine. We discover Mills. I said they could have made half a season out of that, and you could have done a story arc. The way Doctor Who did it when it did it right, you had a story arc. Not necessarily everything was major to the story arc. Um, I mean, heck, let's go back. One of the best science fiction series ever, Babylon 5, did exactly that. 5 year story arc.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Babylon 5 was excellent.
it ended up being truncated for 4 years because they didn't know they were going to get a fifth year too late. But well written story arc. Some of them heavy, especially when you knew more about the story. Some of them stories were heavy story arc. Some of them had nothing at all to do with the main story arc.
Yes,
There's,
exactly.
there's nothing wrong with doing that at all. It's an ideal way of doing these things. It keeps them interesting and it gives them payback later on for watching things.
Yep. Just like Buffy the Vampire Slayer
Yes,
was that
oh
way.
yeah.
They always had a overarching theme for the season, but at
Mhm.
the same time, there were a bunch of one-off episodes that were just fun to watch.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you really don't. I don't see that a lot in storytelling these days.
I must admit, I'm waiting for the inclusivity version of Buffy where they make Buffy a male. I suspect I'm going to be waiting a very long time.
I do believe you'd be waiting pretty much forever. Yes.
Mind you, current day and age, I wouldn't want them to do it because it would be atrocious.
Well, since you're immortal, I guess you could wait forever.
So my name's not Casca, you know. You don't know that. Oh, you don't know that one.
Which one?
Casca, the
No,
immortal.
I don't know that one.
Written by Barry Sadler, Green Beret, author of the Green Beret March, Silver Wings upon their chest. Great song. Um,
Oh, okay.
you may or may not know that one. Back the Ballad of the Green Berets, which I think he also sang. But he wrote a. Other people continued after he passed away, but he wrote a series called the Eternal Legionary. Basically, the basic idea is Casca Longinus is the centurion who stabs Christ on the cross.
Oh, the Centurion. Okay.
Yep, the basic of the story. And Christ curses. I'm not sure it's necessarily, but basically, Christ causes states that not Casca will live until he and Christ meet again, i.e., until the second coming. Which means that and he is eternal mercenary. That's it. And basically, he anytime he's killed, he effectively does a Captain Jack. He doesn't come back immediately necessarily. There's one bit, for example, where he's buried in the desert and he's buried in about 50, 60 years before his grave is covered and sort of thing. But the basic idea is he's effectively allowed Sadler to write the same character in any battle in history after after the uh, um, after the say the year 33 or whatever. After really good. She goes the first few he's goes second or third one because the framing arc starts in Vietnam where you get this doctor who Casca's brought in severely injured for the first one, the doctor actually finds out that Casca actually is immortal, and he knows and he knows the story. And much of the framing art for this is Doctor being told by Casca or Casca writing, and Casca semi-relating his story, but it's told in the third person rather than the first person. So it's not Casca sitting there saying, "I did this, I did this." But it's sort of thing. Where you're on the TV, you can imagine the TV when you do the gradual fade, where you get them sitting in the office and you get this gradual fade. This guy starts talking about this, and it fades over 30 seconds, and then you've got third person action. But I say, I mean, I tried to start with him to put them in order, but obviously because like a lot of them, when he wrote them, they were written. They were written in not in any particular sequence. They start. The first one obviously goes from Vietnam War and then flips back to the crucifixion, and time after that when he discovers he's not aging and this sort of thing.
So you got the initial story in that first book.
Yeah, then I think the second one is the Warlord, which is some around with the Huns.
Have a good sleep, JPs. I hope you get plenty of rest before you got to go to work.
Oh yes, definitely need that. Especially got to go to work afterwards. I hope the weather doesn't keep you awake either. But then the next one, there's one of the ones he ends up with the Maya, and he's literally all over the place. And as I say, I mean, after Sadler, I think Sadler passed away a while ago. There's at least one or two other authors have written other ones. One of them, he actually ends up at Azucorn. I haven't read that one yet. Casca the Longbowman. I haven't read that one yet. I really need to read that one. It's a very interesting premise.
It is an interesting premise. I like that idea. How many books are in that series?
Oh, 30 odd, I think.
Oh my goodness.
They're small. They're short books though, 120 odd pages. They're not long books. It's the good thing is that they're not big books. They don't take that long to read.
Okay.
They're reasonably each short, easy reads. I mean, obviously, if you're someone who doesn't read that quickly, then it takes longer. But say,
right.
100 pages.
Why is that always the case?
Well, as opposed to the Mists of Avalon, which is nearly 1,000 pages long, and I'm going to try and read. I'm never got reading that, so I haven't never managed to read my way through that, and I really want to. It's a fascinating take on the story of King Arthur, the standard rather than the more historical one. I don't know, JP's. I don't know if it ties into Constantine. It might do. I'm not that familiar with the Constantine. I know Constantine turns up again. The DC or the TV version turns up in Legends of Tomorrow, but I stopped watching those a couple of years ago.
Well, Legends of Tomorrow is still one of the fun shows on the WB.
I might try and get back in that. But the last ones I definitely remember watching were the one where their crossover was Supergirl and Green Arrow were Nazis. 2 years ago, I think now. I thought I just wasn't interested in any of them really. Because what got me more than anything in those actually was the hiatus. Because I mean, I know a lot of them come in. I know obviously Thanksgiving is a massive, great event over there. So I know that the Thanksgiving. Do you not have a Super Bowl somewhere around that time or not? I'm not a sports person at all.
Super Bowl's generally in January.
Oh, right. So you've got maybe, yeah. But I know you said sometimes Gatman, they just suddenly for some reason, almost every show seems to stop for 6 weeks.
It didn't used to be that way.
I can't be bothered to pick up again, really. Especially if I'm watching it on downloading it from somewhere.
Most of these series have gone from 26 episodes a year to 18, maybe.
Yeah.
So they do have to take time off during the year, but it really is annoying. That's why I generally wait for them to come out on one of the streaming services.
I used to do that back in the day. I used to get to the point if I'd watch something on TV, and if it was the last episode of the series, I recorded it. I didn't watch it. I recorded it, skipped through to the end, and if it said to be continued or anything like that, I didn't bother watching it. I waited until the next season came out because I got burned with Space Above and Beyond, and I've never put my fingers in that fire since. Because Space Above and Beyond got cancelled after the first season, one season on a cliffhanger ending, and I got burned by that. And I got in the habit of saying, okay, fine, I'm not going to get stuck on that before. I'll record the last episode and I'll keep it. But if it turns out that if it's to be continued and it's something that I'm not binge watching several seasons of, leave it till the next season comes out.
Now, what movie is JP's referring to there?
I don't know. I've not seen the Constantine movies. I know Constantine was a comic. I know Lucifer. I know in fact that I believe that even Lucifer turned up next month. Next season Lucifer drops all on one day, I think, according to IMDb. I believe that Constantine in the massive great crisis on Who Gives a Shit, that one is coming. I believe they actually met up with Lucifer there.
They met up with Lucifer in Crisis on Infinite Earths.
I'd almost watched just that scene. Right. There may be two things there, JP. I know there's the Spear of Destiny is supposedly the spear that pierced Christ's side. Now, whether that was that may be what it's going on rather than casket, because I know I remember seeing a thing a few years ago where they'd actually got what they believe is actually the spear, and it was clearly not the original, but because it was clearly a much more ornate weapon than would have been used in first century Judea. But when they took it apart, there was a bit inside which may actually have been a first century spearhead. So it may be.
Well, I was thinking of the movie where the guy shows up with a cask of Christ's blood, and he has to hole up in a building and use a drop of the blood to create a barrier that the demons couldn't get into.
I don't think I know that one.
And I can't remember the name of that one.
I've not actually seen the Constantine movie, but the Spear of Destiny, same idea, just I think probably a different character. Excuse me a second, I'm just going to mute myself on a sniff.
Well,
yeah, the Spear of Destiny is the weapon that pierced Christ's side. I'm reasonably certain that it was one of the things that a certain occult obsessed party from Germany in the 1930s, whose name we may not mention, were obsessed with, because they had. I mean, Indiana Jones is fiction. Their fascination with the occult is not. And in fact, James Herbert, who's an English horror writer, wrote a story many years ago called The Spear of Destiny, which was about the same thing. So I know I suspect there may be two different storylines when they're inspired by the same event, shall we say? So as not to be too dismissive of people whose religious beliefs may include that event. Whether actually possessing the spear was supposed to make you mortal, I don't know. I'm not sure if they ever actually did that in the librarians either.
All right, JP's. I had to give you a wrench so you could put that link in the chat. There it is. Okay. I'll check that out.
Yeah. No, I think it was one of the. I think it was one of the movies beforehand. The librarian movies was the Spear of Destiny. I think I liked those. I did like the librarians as a series. I thought they were very good.
Oh, I know what movie that is. Oh, jeez. Okay.
Not a particularly good one then.
No, it's Constantine.
Oh, it was Constantine. Oh well.
And it's got Keanu Reeves in it as Constantine. I thought it was a pretty good movie.
I just haven't seen it. I saw most of the TV series with forgotten the actor's name that plays him.
Oh, I don't know the actor's name.
Because I deliberately missed the last episode because again that ended on a cliffhanger that was never actually and then the series ended. Whether I would, but then it's the same guy that plays him in Legends of Tomorrow. So
yeah, I think he's better as a supporting character, honestly.
Yeah,
I mean, I understand the comic books were pretty good, and I did like the movie, but I don't think he could carry a TV show on his own.
Yeah, there's some that are better, aren't there? There's some that work better as a, as you say, you can do a film, but don't know, you couldn't make an entire, you wouldn't necessarily want to do an entire series based just around that character.
Right, and my biggest problem is I know too much biblical knowledge, and so watching something like that just makes me go, ugh, these writers need to study more.
Oh, right, yes. Then again, I have to admit, the Ten Commandments is another film I don't necessarily watch for entirely for the storyline. Excellent film, but
And that's the one with Charlton Heston, right?
yes.
Yeah.
No, more importantly, Deborah Paget and Yvonne de Carlo. No, sorry. Masculinity.
That's a good enough reason to watch it.
Yeah, it was. Yes, it's the one, and it is. What I find particularly interesting about. So I'm just wondering if that's wrong. What I find particularly interesting about that whole thing, the Exodus, the floods, and everything. I'm not a particularly religious person. Without meaning to, I've got no problem with anybody who does have religious beliefs. I tend in general to think of the Old Testament as an oral history from a pre-literate society which has been written down, an explanation for where they came from, etc., etc.
Actually, a pretty good descriptor.
What I find interesting is that just a while ago I saw one where they reckon that depending upon times, it's possible that the Exodus and the events took place about the same time that Santorini exploded, which is an island in the Mediterranean.
Right, where it took, 3/4 of the island with it?
Yeah.
And now it's basically just an atoll.
Yeah. Also, possibly the inspiration for the Atlantis myth.
Yeah.
But the theory is...
You are pretty accurate as far as oral history and then written down. The thing is that Moses, of course, knew how to read and write. So when he wrote the Pentateuch, the first 5 books. He's the one who actually wrote it.
Yeah.
And so he was writing down oral histories told by his brother Aaron.
Yes. Well, the interesting stuff on that is that a lot of it, like they reckon that possibly, depending upon, because I don't think, if I'm correct, there's no one actually, no one's actually managed to pin down exactly where they crossed the Red Sea, for example. So the theory is that if they were far enough, if they were near enough to the Med, oh, that's not nice. She was high as a kite on the burning bush. No one ever said what sort of bush it was.
That's true. It may very well have been a very green bush.
Yes. But the idea is that you might got, for example, that the Red Sea, the parting of the Red Sea, may have been the
Reed Sea.
Yes, but if it actually was a Red Sea or a river parting, what it may have been is, volcanic eruption causes tidal wave, but of course, what you get in front of a tidal wave when it reaches land, before the tidal wave hits land, it pulls water out.
Yeah.
So that maybe what happened was that the tidal wave comes up, it pulls the water out from the river. The Israelites cross, the tidal wave hits the coast, and therefore the water comes back down again and takes out the pursuing Egyptians. And there were similar explanations, I think, for several of the plagues. Some of them being like, for example, well, yes, if you get a load of dead frogs, you're likely to get a load of get a load of flies afterwards, and that sort of thing. Because but I mean, I find that again as a history, I find that something fascinating because, of course, we have to remember that physiologically there is absolutely no difference between our ancestors 10,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, and us. We were no more, on average, we were no more intelligent than they were. They just had a lot. We just have a lot more knowledge.
Written knowledge,
and indeed studied knowledge. We know a lot more things. They had no way of knowing, for example, that the Earth wasn't the only planet in the universe. The Earth and the Moon, the system. We obviously now know, or we now believe, it's way more than that. It's something I was, you have to remember, which is you have to remember that people just they weren't stupid. They weren't stupid in the past. They just had less knowledge, less information, less education, because we've had thousands of years of history between us in which things have happened, in which we've discovered things, which we've worked things out, which we've theorized and changed. I mean, the Book of Genesis is a perfectly. And again, I mean, no offense to anybody. I know at least one person who's actually rabbi. I don't know if you know the rabbi. He's an Orthodox Jew. I would not wish to offend anybody's beliefs, but I tend to, from my point of view, the Book of Genesis, the 7 days, etc., is an explanation of how the world came about. It's an explanation of people looking around them and trying to work out what happened. Why do we have a 7-day week? Why this, why that? And that's how they came about it. They theorized it.
Well, there's a bunch of different theories on that one. As a matter of fact, the first time I did a morning blend, I talked about the gap theory, and that was first proposed by a Scottish theologian 200 years ago.
I don't think I've heard. What's that one? I don't think I know that.
Theory?
Yeah.
Between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2, there's an infinite amount of time that could be squeezed in there, because our story as humans occupying our current Earth starts and takes place at Genesis 1:2.
Well, yes, fair point. Yeah, good
God
point.
created the earth, or God created the heavens and the earth in verses 1:1, and it could be 14 different ages. You know, the earth cooling, the reducing atmosphere,
Well,
the dinosaurs, the
well, I mean,
Neanderthals.
I remember seeing someone pointing out that the Bible says it took a day to do this, morning and evening to do that, but it's not until certainly several days into creation that he creates that the meanings of day and night come to have any meaning anyway. So exactly, you can have that long. I mean, the other thing is that gets me is the um, another piece of actually people, modern people who think themselves superior tend to laugh at the Earth's 6,000 years old, the Archbishop Usher thing. But
Yeah,
if you look at the way Archbishop Usher actually did it, put him in his time, put him in his mindset, he calculated. He took the evidence before him, which he believed to be the word of God, etc., and he calculated the ages, and he worked out roughly the ages, and he said, okay, we can work out the age of this patriarch and this one. The way he worked it out was effectively scientific, perfectly logical method.
yeah, I did that myself, as a matter of fact. Well, I was in Iraq and I was bored, so
I would say if you were in Iraq and you were bored, you were probably lucky as well. I've got many moments of boredom in Iraq.
yeah,
I respect you,
by,
sir.
punctuated by moments of terror. Yes.
But then again, that's supposed to be a reasonably good description. Long periods of boredom followed by short moments of terror. I can't remember exactly what that was, but it was action and released activity.
So I did those calculations myself. I think I was off by like 500 years, but you know, if you're going to be a biblical scholar, you should probably get as many facts right as you can.
That's something else I think I would like to have done. I remember, way back when I was at school in the 70s, we had I did RE, religious education, at secondary school, and I went to a Church of England primary school, but we had good, but it wasn't. Um, it wasn't. I don't want to say hammered into us, but you know what I mean. It was. It wasn't. For what I recall of it, it was a reasonably even-handed education. It wasn't religious. A Church of England or any other heavy. But we had. I remember basically my secondary. I only did it for a couple of years. We gave it up. But a very good teacher. Studying things other than justice and I remember things like reading about how real experts had actually really examined the Gospels and worked out about 5 or 6 sources where they think the Gospel stories came, not necessarily as they're supposed to be assigned, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, slightly different order, and they reckon there were several different sources. That sort of thing fascinated me. I think I would have loved to have studied and been able to do that, because I think that would be fascinating. Just look at a story and say, okay, well, that is similar to that source as known source.
Yeah.
A perfect example is the Epic of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, at one point, he meets a chap called Utnapishtim. I'm probably getting that slightly, but basically, this guy survived the gods trying to flood the earth. I'm sure I've heard that somewhere before.
Yeah.
In other words, basically, the Gilgamesh legend, epic, written long before the Bible, if I remember correctly, has a story of the flood, which suggests either a connection between the Noah story and Gilgamesh, or an event which entered memory, especially that it was remembered and written about in two very different, very different religions, religious.
Right. Well, there is a flood story in almost every
Mm,
society around the world.
yeah.
So, I'm not worried about it. Either I'm right or I'm wrong, and I prefer the comfort of being right. So, I know. I admit I take the opiate of the masses.
It's what I find this very interesting. Do you remember the film Contact, or the book, or the film Contact?
Which
Based
one?
on Contact, based on the Carl Sagan
Oh,
novel with
Contact.
Jodie
Yes.
Foster. There's a line in there which I find um, bothers me a little bit, which is where you've got Jodie Foster's character is an atheist, and you've got her romantic interest, Matthew McConaughey, is a particularly, I think, a particularly American style preacher. I seem to mean that seems to be your culture seems to have given rise to that particular sort of not proselytizing, what's the word I'm looking for? The big tent.
Oh, the oh, you're putting me on the spot now.
Anyway, it seems from my point of view that seems to be something that's particularly prevalent in America rather than the rest of the country. Anyway, it's completely random. But one point where he says that he can't put his trust in someone who thinks that half the world is deluded
uh,
because they have religious beliefs. My answer, I'm not telling my answer to that will be, well, to be quite honest, but you don't all have the same beliefs, so surely some of you must believe that other people are, it does. I just find something slightly uncomfortable about that line. Evangelical, thank you, JB. That's the word I was looking for. Yes, it was an It's a very good book as well. And of course, written by the late great Carl Sagan.
right.
So
Well, it's been an hour, folks.
it has.
Blend. Yeah. I wasn't sure we'd be able to keep going.
Yeah. I thought we were going to be talking a little bit about possibly talking about Brave New World, but hey, it went all over the place as usual.
It did. It generally does.
Although I would just point out that Brave New World is, I believe, a Shakespearean quote. I think it's from The Tempest. A Brave New World that has such people in it. I think that's from The Tempest.
Possibly.
What I do find is Brave New World, I think, is a book that doesn't. A lot of people talk about 1984 these days. Try Brave New World, and as Steve, the rabbi from another planet, has done reviews on this new series, and they said his point is on it. He thinks it's exceedingly anti-woke, and it's very good. It's I can see where he's coming from on that one. I've only got through the first couple of episodes at the moment, but it's a good series.
Okay. I'll take a look.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining me today. Thank you, Colin.
That's okay, mate. Happy to get to talk to someone on the other side of the pond already.
You get to whenever I'm on.
Well, I mean, there's yourself, there's a couple of two or three people down in Texas on the Houston area that I tend to go online with a lot as well.
Now you got another.
Yeah. Oh, you're done. Are you done that way as well?
No, I'm in Arizona. But
yeah, but
might as well all be the same thing. We're all Americans.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, you're all one big mess over that side of the world. Unlike us in this side of the world, where we're lots of little countries that separate each other. Turning on its head the trope of you of people in America thinking, well, you're from England, you're from Scotland, you must know each other. You know, I'm sure most people aren't that silly, but no, it's a trope we tend to have. But yes, you know.
Well, remember everyone to join me and Jedi Bill 797 in about 5 hours. We're going to do the Twilight Watch Party.
Twilight TV series, or I've got to say, because it won't be Twilight your time, will it? So is that
No.
Twilight?
Twilight the movie.
Oh, no, I thought,
We're going to torture Jedi Bill with sparkly vampires.
that's not nice. I've got a sneaking suspicion I may be watching something much better than I've Doctor Who by then. But well, we did classic. We did TARDIS Zone does classic watching on a Saturday, and new watch on Sundays. We did Face of Evil yesterday. The first Louis Jameson leader story. Tonight it's the second part of the David Tennant first Cyberman story. I think so. I missed last week. And that's about 7-8 o'clock our time, which I think is about no, it's about you're probably 1 o'clock in the morning my time actually. I think I get time zones confused. It's horrible.
So do I.
Why can't we stick to Zulu and leave the rest of it alone?
I have trouble remembering central time zones.
At least I've only got one to remember here. Well,
Hey.
time of year is riding 3 across the country.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful evening, and we will see you again next week for the Morning Blend on Sunday morning. Maybe I'll be a little more prepared next week.
It's always fun. It's always fun to just chat.
Or, yeah, we could just go all over the place like we did today.
Yeah. Have a good day, guys.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.